Good evening, Mr. Bond fans, and welcome back to a actually quite requested video where I'm going to be looking back at one of the original review videos that I made for this channel way back, like 14 years ago. This time it's going to be The Living Daylights. As I say, this one has actually been quite requested. Like, every now and then I get a comment saying, like, oh, could you please do a reaction to the original Living Daylights video, which makes me somewhat apprehensive coming into this, because why? Why this one? This is one of the ones where I have zero recollection of anything that I take. Like, occasionally I'll come to these and I'll be like, oh yeah, no, I remember, I probably, you know, I remember a certain gag, or I remember a certain opinion that I had at the time. This is one where I just have zero recollection. Like, nothing has stuck with me about this particular video. It will have been the first time I was reviewing one of the Timothy Dalton films on the channel, so I have a feeling there was a time when I would have said that Timothy Dalton was my least favourite of all the James Bond actors, and his films were both quite... But then I was actually quite positive when I looked back at my old License to Kill video, so maybe I'm thinking... I always come into these thinking that I'm going to be more negative. My younger self is going to be more negative than what I remember, so we will see. This is one of the shorter ones. The video is 12 minutes and 25 seconds, so... Well, anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so the very start of the video is me looking... I think from this grainy, pixelated footage, I can make out a fairly unimpressed expression on my face looking at the poster, so, here goes, we'll see. Let's begin.
Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of my Weekly Bond. Now, if you've been following these video reviews from the very first one, you'll probably be aware that I'm not the biggest Timothy Dalton fan. Well, that's not entirely true, really, I guess. I bloody love Timothy Dalton in non-Bond films, such as Hot Fuzz and Toy Story 3. I mean, he was one of the best things in those films for me. It's just, as
Quite
James
right.
Bond, I've never been a big fan. I can appreciate why people might like Dalton, just like I can appreciate why people might like Die Another Day, but it's just not really my cup of tea. But I mean,
like
come
Die
on,
Another
we
Day
all have our
these days.
favourites and least favourites, don't we? Right? Fellas? Anyway, yeah, I just thought I'd open this review with that, so all you Timothy Dalton fanboys don't crucify me. But fortunately, even the darkest of clouds often have silver linings, and with that, let's delve into my preferred Timothy Dalton Bond film, The Living Daylights. So the film begins...
Sorry, that's my preferred Timothy Dalton Bond film. Okay, that has changed dramatically over the years. Like, if you're familiar with my recent rankings and what have you, The Living Daylights is often in the lower tiers for me. It's one of those Bond films that I know so many Bond fans really love it. But it is one of those that every time I come back to it, I wish I liked it more than what I actually do, like my experience of, you know, watching it. These days, I would put, you know, License to Kill is like, you know, troubling my top 10. Like, it's in the upper echelons for me as License to Kill. So, wow, okay, I'm very surprised that I would have said that Living Daylights was my preferred one back then, but anyway, let's see why.
With a new gun barrel sequence, and we see Bond along with 002 and 004 parachuting onto the Rock of Gibraltar as part of a training exercise.
Sorry, is that confirmed that it's 002 and 004? Where did I get that information? Let me know in the comments below if that's actually correct, sorry.
While on the exercise, though, 004 is killed by an unknown assassin, and it's here that we get our first shot of our new 007 before Bond gives chase to the assassin in a wonderful action sequence involving an explosive-laden Land Rover, with Timothy Dalton doing a lot of his own stunts, I should add, before the vehicle careers off a cliff.
Careers off a cliff? Careens off a cliff? Careens off a cliff, I think that's the actual expression. Let me know in the comments below. Careers off a cliff. Okay, this is a bit extended clip on an already relatively short video review.
Boring? Sorry, did you not just see that Jeep fly off the side of a mountain and explode while a man parachuted out of the back of it? If you think that's boring, I'd love to know what you think exciting is. Bond lands on the high-maintenance woman's yacht and puts off reporting in order to engage in some fornication. Same old James, then. Anyway, after the credits, we get a brilliant sequence where we see Bond on a mission assisting the defection of a KGB officer. General Georgy Koskov, played by, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway, Jerome Krabe.
That is a very bad pronunciation of Jeroen. I have to thank Dutch Bond fan, actually, for, I can't remember when, but introducing to the correct pronunciation of the name.
I hope that was right, it probably wasn't. Anyway, Bond does this along with his MI6 contact, Saunders, played rather likeably by Thomas Wheatley. Koskov escapes his KGB minders during an orchestra performance, and Bond is assigned to watch out for snipers. Eventually, one pops up in the form of the orchestra's cellist, Kara Milovi, played by Mariam Darbo. Bond spares her life, only causing her a minor injury, much to the annoyance of Saunders, but nonetheless, Koskov is smuggled safely to Austria. Bond heads back to MI6 and with Q's help tries to identify the sniper woman. It's here that we get a lot of fun and frolics in Q Branch, along with an introduction to our new Moneypenny, played by Caroline Bliss.
Anytime you want to drop by and listen to my Barry Manilow collection.
Barry Manilow? Really, Moneypenny? God, no wonder Bond's never got with her. Bond then heads to a countryside
Not quite sure where the Barry Manilow shade came from, but there we go.
house where M and the Minister of Defence are taking information from Koskov, who informs MI6 that an old KGB policy, Smear Spionum, Death to Spies, has been revived by its new head, General Pushkin, who's taken over from General Gogol. Bond, M and the Minister leave just as the manor is attacked by an assassin, Nekros, played by Andreas Wisniewski, who kidnaps Koskov. I'll say here that I do really like this whole sequence, which includes a surprise cameo from one of everyone's favourite Bond characters. Nice to see Max from For Your Eyes Only pop up again in a Bond film. However, I feel the screenwriters really missed an opportunity by having Bond, M and the Minister leave before the attack. Having M and the Minister in peril would have made the situation a lot more interesting and been a bit of a shake-up, quite frankly. But never mind, I can always wait until the world is not enough. The whole episode pisses off the Minister.
We're the laughingstock of the intelligence community.
Community? What, do you all get together at Christmas and have a party or something? We then get more fun and frolics in Q Branch, including quite possibly my favourite Q gadget ever.
All right, sit down and make yourself comfortable.
And more stuff with Moneypenny. Wow, she's hanging around Q Branch a lot in this film, isn't she? Get back to work, woman. Anyway, Bond is assigned the job of killing General Pushkin, played by John Rhys Davies here. But first, Bond travels to Bratislava to investigate the connection with the sexy blonde sniper cellist whose identity he now knows thanks to Moneypenny. Bond learns that the bullets in Kara's sniper were blanks and that she was Koskov's girlfriend, which naturally leads Bond to suspect that Koskov's defection was staged. Kara is being watched by the KGB, but Bond manages to escape with her in a wonderful gadget-laden Aston Martin vehicle chase before utilising a rather unusual mode of transport to get across the border, a cello case.
This is all really positive from me at the moment.
Nothing to declare!
That's the cello!
The pair head to Vienna, where at an amusement park, Bond meets up with Saunders. Here's a good place for some moderately interesting trivia. This is the same amusement park used for the film The Third Man, a film that Bond director Guy Hamilton was an assistant director on. The film also featured Bernard Lee in a small role. Anyway, Bond and Kara get close, while Saunders reveals a link between Koskov and an arms dealer named Brad Whitaker, played by Joe Don Baker, whose offer to sell the KGB high-tech weapons in Tangier was declined by General Pushkin. Saunders is then killed by Nekros, who rigged a sliding glass door. Saunders dies? Oh. Luigi died in For Your Eyes Only. VJ died in Octopussy. Tibbet died in A View to a Kill. I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Naturally, this makes Bond angry and proceeds to terrify a young boy and his mother. Just great. Anyway, we then get a brilliant scene where Bond interrogates General Pushkin at gunpoint, who reveals that the KGB had been investigating Koskov for embezzlement of government funds. Bond then realises that MI6 had been set up by Koskov, and so he and Pushkin stage an assassination to make Whitaker and Koskov believe that Pushkin is dead. While making his getaway, Bond meets these two ladies who act all mysterious and menacing, and we're sure Bond's in trouble when they lead him to Felix Leiter. Oh, for God's sake, is it standard protocol for CIA agents to lurk around and look suspicious? I mean, for once, why don't they just come out and say, "Hey, I'm from the CIA, need a hand, James?" It'd save an awful lot of aggro.
An attempt at American accent there. I'm really zipping through this plot, and I'm curious to know if I'm going to get any details wrong later on, because similar to Octopussy in a way, The Living Daylights is one where when you get into the finer details of the plot, even now I can get a little like, wait a minute, what are the villains doing again? And I'm wondering when we get to the whole opium thing, if I'm just gonna give up explaining what's going on. But anyway.
I really don't want to waste any time talking about Felix in this film because he's so amazingly dull and boring and shit and easily the worst Felix lighter of the whole series. Anyway, Bond gets back to Kara, who's been convinced by Koskov that Bond is a KGB agent, so she knocks him out, helping Koskov capture him. Bond, Kara, Necros and Koskov then all fly to Afghanistan, where Kara is imprisoned along with Bond when we meet this prat.
Ah, what are these here for?
For murder.
Murder? Ah. I haven't had a woman prisoner for a long time.
Okay, it really wasn't that funny. With a little help from Q and a fellow prisoner, Bond and Kara escape.
You were fantastic. We're free.
Kara, we're inside a Russian airbase in the middle of Afghanistan.
Oh god, Kara, you're so simple. Ugh. Anyway, Bond and Kara release the other prisoner, Cameron Shah, played by Art Malik, who just so happens to be the leader of a resistance group. What were the chances? Shah leads Bond and Kara back to his base.
I'm sure you'd like to freshen up. It's all right, go ahead.
Why are they laughing? That wasn't funny in the slightest.
I have to get back to the airbase.
Yeah, it's not that funny, you know.
Then at least put me in touch with the Mujahideen.
For God's sake, stop laughing! It isn't that funny! Anyway, Bond learns of some dirty dealings that are going on involving weapons, opium and diamonds. That would make Whitaker an awful lot of money and would make Koskov powerful in the KGB. Bond then convinces Shah to launch
Well, that was a very succinct explanation of the plot. Wow, okay.
an attack on Koskov as Bond plants a bomb on a plane full of opium. However, Bond is forced to stay on the plane after Koskov recognises him. There's a bit of a fight and Bond starts to take off when Kara pops up.
I do quite like this clip. It's one of my favourite bits of the whole film. He gets so annoyed. Oh, volume suddenly dipped then. Oh,
good God, Kara, why are you so simple? Kara eventually comprehends the situation and drives the Jeep onto the plane. See, I can't really buy Bond falling in love with Kara in this film. At least I think that's what the filmmakers are going for by making her really the only girl throughout this film. Half the time Bond just seems annoyed by her, and you know what? Fair enough. To be honest, she is incredibly annoying. Anyway, Necros gets onto the plane as well, and we get a very different fight sequence with the pair hanging off the back of the plane before Bond sends him to his death. Bond leaves Kara flying the plane throughout this sequence, but being the stupid, cow-eyed bint that she is, she nearly flies the plane into a cliff. Seriously, Bond, strap the bomb to her and chuck her out. You're better off without her, honestly. Bond then heads to Whitaker's place and kills him in a very anticlimactic end sequence when Pushkin pops up and arrests Koskov. Anyway, Kara is now a cello star or something, and we see her playing in London. By the way, that's composer John Barry there, cameoing as the conductor. Kara meets M, and we get a cameo from General Gogol as Cameron Shah and co turn up. Kara gets into her dressing room where she finds Bond waiting for her, and this is where the film ends, complete with a horrible, ear-rapey, ballady piece of crap over the end credits. Seriously, the Aha song was so good, why not end with that?
I don't dislike this song anymore. I'm surprised I've had such a strong reaction to it back in the day.
It begins with excitement and ends at the edge of your seat.
So yeah, that's The Living Daylights, and it's pretty good. That's my summation, anyway. It's a nice, solid entry in the series, but I've never really seen it as being anything more than that. Obviously, Dalton is part of the problem with me, and I fail to find him at all engaging as Bond. He's just a bit too intense in the role for my liking. Even when he's trying to look happy, he's too intense. Like, look at this clip of him buying Kara a dress that she wants.
Let's buy it.
Don't joke. Who will pay?
Yorgi, of course.
Tell me those aren't the eyes of a psychopath.
Kind of the point of Bond, though, really, isn't it, that he is a psychopath? But, yeah, anyway.
Mariam Darbo is a good actress, but Kara is such a wet, annoying, stupid character. Honestly, I don't know how Bond could possibly put up with her dumbfounding stupidity throughout this film without strapping a bomb to her. The villains are all okay, with Jerome Crowley standing out in his colourful performance as Koskov. I admire the film for trying out something new on the villain front, that there's kind of two main villains in this film working in tandem instead of just one, but I don't know, it just doesn't really work as well here for me as it did in, say, Octopussy with Kamal and Orlov. John Rhys-Davies is great as Pushkin, but then John Rhys-Davies is great in any role he plays. I do have a major issue with the Pushkin character, though. As the script was originally written, Gogol was supposed to be the one in Pushkin's role and the person that Bond was sent to assassinate, which would have been absolutely wonderful, but sadly this never came about, which is such a shame as Bond and Gogol have an on-screen relationship together of 5 previous films, which would have made Bond being sent to kill him a lot more interesting than someone we've never heard of. As for the new Moneypenny and Felix, they're both pretty rubbish. It's notable that this film marks the last appearances of 2 regular characters, the Minister of Defence Frederick Grey and General Gogol, who both go out with a bit of a whimper in this film, to be perfectly honest. Which makes it even more annoying that Gogol didn't have a bigger role in this film. There's some nice action scenes and I think the John Barry score is effective. Yeah, I don't know, I just can't really think of much else to say about it. It kind of sums up indifference for me. I really don't care much for it one way or the other. I think it starts out good, but then once it moves to Vienna, it just becomes quite good. Don't get me wrong, I don't dislike The Living Daylights, but I can't exactly say I'm going to be shouting out my love and adoration for it anytime soon. Anyway, yeah. Next week, a film that I really hate. License to Kill.
What an ending! Oh my god! Wow. All right, that was a journey. First of all, I shouldn't really like oversell. Like, The Living Daylights is a Bond film that I do enjoy watching. Like, I can watch it. It is always. It's one of those. It's a bit sort of like Doctor No in a lot of ways for me, where it only ends up towards the lower end of my rankings because there are so many other Bond films that I really do adore, and it kind of, you know, if I had to, you know, live in a world where, you know, Octopussy or The Living Daylights, I would go with Octopussy. But I was quite surprised there that I was very positive about The Living Daylights, and yeah, very anti-Kara. And a part of my problem with it still is that I don't think that Kara is a particularly great Bond girl. But, you know, that's not Mariam Darbo's fault at all, and I'm glad that I mentioned that in that particular video, actually. You know, same thing with Moneypenny and Felix. You know, it's more just the material on the page than, you know, anything that the particular actors are doing. But I'm glad that I acknowledged that there about Kara because, yeah, like I say, she is still somewhat of a problem for my enjoyment of the film. I do find her, and I get the point is that she's supposed to be kind of naive and cow-eyed and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. I just find her a bit frustrating after a while as a result of that. A bit about strapping the bomb to her and throwing her out of the plane. Yeah, wow. But yeah, overall, I didn't think that was a particularly bad one. I think that the video itself was okay. It was, you know, zipped through that quite complicated plot quite quickly. I should probably go back to that and make notes of how to summarize it in a more concise way for the future as well. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and also below do let me know which of these videos, like, I'm coming towards, I think, the end of, like, I don't have that many left of these that I'm gonna be reacting to, so let me know if there are any specific ones that you would like me to get to next. Also, click the subscribe button, the Mrs. Bell notification button. You know it's always very much appreciated, so if you are not subscribed, please do consider doing so. It really helps the channel out. With all that being said, and until next time, Bond fans, so long for now.